Hey, everybody, welcome to the Supernatural Beer Bros podcast. I'm your host, Andy, and I'm joined today by Ronnie up in Maine with the Skeeters.
What's going on, everybody?
And hopefully, Ben will be getting on here shortly. He told me he had some shit he had to get done real quick and he's going to be coming on, but I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's going to be a good time either way.
Oh, yeah. Nice shit.
We're going to have some juvenile jokes and some bullshit and a little bit of fun.
Like animals.
Yeah, so
what are we talking about today, Andy?
Today we're getting into the Great Lakes Triangle, or more specifically, the Lake Michigan Triangle.
Very interesting.
Oh, yeah? It kind of extends to all the Great Lakes because it's kind of like the Bermuda Triangle, except the Great Lakes. But a lot of ships went missing on Lake Superior, too. Ships and planes.
You think the army of Sasquatch took them down?
Oh, I don't know. Could be. They're flying over the Sasquatch when he's trying to take a fucking nap and he's all throw some rocks at him or something.
Uproots a tree and just throws it.
Yeah, like fucking like King Kong and was it Kong versus Godzilla?
Yeah, he throws it like a spear at the dome.
Hey, was that a reference to the firmament
I think so.
in that movie?
Yeah, honestly, yes, I think it is. And later on, obviously, it's a reference to the Hollow Earth because there's a whole nother world underneath.
Yeah. So, anyways, where are we at here? Trying out a new web browser. Oh, still got that open. From my cold dead hands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Edmund Fitzgerald.
We out here. All right. Orange bean. You go flick that little bean.
Flicking the bean.
Get it done. All right. Supernatural or superstition? The Lake Michigan Triangle. Published July 15th, 2020 by Jennifer Young. Was that a fucking underwater Niagara Falls or something?
That's what her underbritches, what happens in her underbritches when she gets a look at me.
That's what she sounded like too.
Waterfall.
Yeah, you're sitting there on your fucking ship with your buddies and you all of a sudden you catch a glimpse of that shit and your buddy looks at you and he's like,
The Lord tells me he can get me out of this mess, but he's pretty sure you're fucked.
Yeah. And then they all go down with the ship anyway.
yeah. So, all right. So here we go. Rough weather and shipwrecks are endemic to the Great Lakes, but one triangular swath of Lake Michigan is especially associated with mysterious occurrences. The Lake Michigan Triangle may not be as famous as the Bermuda Triangle, but it shares much of the same superstitious lore, much of which is based on unusual yet factual events. Lost captains, ships gone missing without a trace, weird underwater rock formations. Many of this triangle's tales remain unexplained. The Lake Michigan Triangle, if you recall your high school geometry classes, is that scalene in shape. All three sides have different lengths. So while there may be some plausible explanations for the mysterious plane and shipwrecks in the area, the triangle's paranormal reputation continues to this day. The Lake Michigan Triangle. So Manitowoc over to Ludington down to Benton Harbor. So this is to the northeast of Chicago and directly east of Milwaukee.
Interesting.
No, yeah, I ain't shitting you.
Yeah. I don't know too much about this one, but I know about the Edmund Fitzgerald a little
I'm gonna
bit.
be honest with you. I'm kind of retarded.
Oh, are they putting that stuff in the water in Lake Michigan too?
Yeah.
I don't like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay.
Yeah.
So
I think they did. That probably created the triangle.
So the earliest known mystery of Lake Michigan Triangle occurred in 1891. The schooner Thomas Hume set off across the lake with 7 sailors to pick up a supply of lumber, constructed in Manitowoc, Wisconsin, in 1870. In 1870, the wooden ship was the property of a lumber baron and had crossed the lake dozens upon dozens of times prior to its mysterious disappearance. The Thomas Hume set sail from Chicago, setting a course across the lake to reach Muskegon, Michigan. It disappeared during the night without a trace. In 1921, the Rosabelle ship was discovered, overturned, and none of its 11 passengers were ever found. In 1937, Captain Donner vanished from his ship's cabin after he had just navigated his crew through an icy area of the lake. The cabin was locked from the inside, but when the crew broke down the door to check on the captain, he wasn't in there.
I'm not saying it was the aliens, but it was the aliens.
Yeah. In 1950, Flight 2501 and its 58 passengers crashed within the triangle with no wreckage ever found. Some people reported to have seen a strange red light above the lake, leading some to blame the event on UFOs or some other paranormal occurrence.
Sounds just like the hunter in Washington State that, went on the news claiming that Bigfoot sexually assaulted him, and Bigfoot said bullshit. He was begging for it.
Oh, shit. No, not wrong one. There we go.
Oh my God.
Air disaster. All right.
That damn Sasquatch.
In addition to these and other similar wrecks in the area of the triangle, divers have discovered a strange Stonehenge-like rock formation. The formation sits under 40 feet of water. Marine archaeologists even found a boulder near the rock structure with a mastodon carved onto it. So, with its similarity to Stonehenge, the rock formation has an aura of mystery that some believe could play a role in the lake's strange weather patterns.
Andy, you think before any of these ships disappeared, the crews yet were like yelling at the captain, like the sea is foamy. He wandered way off course.
Yeah, probably. I mean, they're just cruising. Like they're cruising, and it gets foggy. They can't really see, and then the sea starts whipping up. It gets a little windy, and then there's all.
The sea is foamy. You have wandered way off course.
Smells like pina colada.
Joey, the sea is foamy. So,
oh my God.
The cause of these tragedies are likely not paranormal or extraterrestrial. The Great Lakes are associated with a wide range of mysterious shipwrecks, tall waves, and violent weather conditions. Blaming the weather isn't such a far-fetched notion. Since 1679, tragedy has littered the murky bottom of the Great Lakes. 30,000 lives and over 8,000 vessels.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of vessels.
Yep.
Skeptics of the triangle believe the mystery of this part of the lake is merely the creation of Charles Berlitz. In 1913, he claimed that this part of the lake was governed by paranormal forces. He also believed that the lost civilization of Atlantis was associated with the Bermuda Triangle and was a strong believer in extraterrestrials. Since this area of the lake is crisscrossed by shipping lines. Its preponderance of collisions and wrecks isn't mysterious at all, especially when one compares the statistics of lost ships with similarly shipping lanes. Why did they put a ly there? They should have just said similar shipping lanes,
Because they're illiterate.
obviously. So, anyway, get into some more specifics. Northwest Airlines Flight 2501. June 23rd, 1950. It was a day before North Korea invaded South Korea, prompting President Harry Truman to commit U.S. forces to defend the country. On the radio, Nat King Cole, Doris Day, and the Ames brothers were singing the latest tunes just a few years before rock and roll would debut. In the few homes equipped with that new invention, the television set, families were watching Snooky Lanson singing the week's top songs on Your Hit Parade.
Right.
So, in New York, the evening of Friday, June 23rd, 1950, was a warm but pleasant night. Passengers who boarded Northwest Airlines Flight 2501, bound for Seattle, Washington, with a scheduled stopover in Minneapolis, Minnesota, were looking forward to a long but comfortable flight. Flight 2501 was a Douglas DC-4 airliner with four Pratt & Whitney R2000 Wasp engines. These reciprocating piston propeller engines could power the converted World War II C-54 transport to a maximum airspeed of 280 miles per hour. The flight lifted off on time from New York's LaGuardia at 7:30 p.m. and headed west under clear skies. The pilot was 35-year-old Captain Robert C. Lind of Hopkins, Minnesota. In the right hand seat was co-pilot Vern F. Wolf, also 35, of Minneapolis. 25-year-old stewardess Bonnie Ann Feldman was in the passenger compartment taking care of 55 passengers identified as 27 women and 22 men, and 6 children. The uneventful flight.
So they identified as?
No, they were identified as. Not they identified themselves as. This is not modern liberalism. This is merely a story.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. So the uneventful flight passed safely over Cleveland, Ohio, and continued west toward Minneapolis, Minnesota, a major hub for Northwest Airlines, as the DC-4 passed over Battle Creek, Michigan at 11:51 p.m. Eastern Time. Captain Lind notified Northwest Air Traffic Control Center at Chicago by radio that he estimated passing over Milwaukee at 11:37 p.m. Central Time. He was flying level at 3,500 feet. As the plane reached the lakeshore at 12:13 a.m. Eastern that evening, Captain Lind, knowing of storms over Lake Michigan, requested clearance from air traffic control to 2,500 feet. He was denied due to other traffic in the area. That was the last communication from Flight 2501. Her disappearance marked the largest aviation disaster in world history to that point. The DC-4 used by Northwest Airlines for Flight 2501 was a sturdy and reliable aircraft. It had 4 Pratt & Whitney, yeah, we know that, Wasp engines that could generate 1,400 horsepower. The development of the DC-4 dated back to 1938 when United Airlines conceived the first 4-engine long-range airliner. They hired Douglas to devise the highly ambitious DC-4E for experimental. This 4-engine behemoth was flight tested in 1939. It was roughly 3 times the size of its predecessor, the DC-3, with a wingspan of 138 feet and a length of 97 feet.
Yeah, and at that time, all the passengers, Andy, at that time, all the passengers on that plane were friggin' clam baking that plane the whole way, smoking. So
This plane could potentially fly nonstop from Chicago to San Francisco. However, the DC-4E never flew commercially. Late in 1939, DC-4 prototype was sold to Japan. This was ostensibly for use by the Japanese airlines, but the buyer turned out to be a front organization for Japanese Navy, and the craft quickly disappeared. The quick disappearance of the airplane was attributed to a training crash in Tokyo Bay, but actually it was disassembled in an aircraft factory and used as a model for a very similar four-engine bomber that thankfully never got beyond the prototype stage. Boeing also could not get beyond the prototype. You know what? What does this have to do with this particular flight?
Nothing.
Right off the assembly line. Yeah, up yours. Designated C-54 production. Meet demands of Douglas. C-54s were the first 3 years prior. Stick it up your ass. As was the case for the earlier DC-3 and C-47. Blah, 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 blah. Control operations at LaGuardia. So 9 years prior to this flight. Where are we at? On evening of June 23rd, 1950, DC-4 with certifications number 10270 and tail number N95425, owned by Northwest Airlines and designated Flight 2501, loaded 2,500 gallons of fuel, 80 gallons of oil, and 490 pounds of express, and was expecting 55 passengers. Fully loaded aircraft weighed in at 71,342 pounds, just 58 pounds below the maximum permissible takeoff weight. Captain Lind had flown for Northwest Airlines since 1941. He was checked out on DC-4 type aircraft and qualified on Milwaukee to New York segment 5 years earlier. He maintained his qualification in DC-4s, logging almost 200 hours on that aircraft, and had flown over the route continuously. In the 90 days prior to this flight, he had flown 105 hours in DC-4 aircraft and made 15 round trips on the Minneapolis, New York, and Minneapolis to Washington routes. Captain Lind also had over 900 hours logged flying solely on instruments. Just 4 months before this flight, he completed a Civil Aeronautics Administration physical, and he had a total rest period of 24 hours since his last flight. If anyone was prepared for this flight, it was Captain Robert Lind. Co-pilot Vern F. Wolf had been with Northwest Airlines almost as long as Captain Lind had. He was a capable pilot in his own right. The crew checked in with Northwest Flight Control Operations Center at LaGuardia Airport to prepare for the flight. The weather all along the route was carefully checked and a flight plan arranged to avoid unfavorable conditions and bring the plane in on time. While Lind and Wolf were taking care of the flight preparations, and Bonnie Ann Feldman was preparing the cabin, baggage handlers loaded the plane with the passengers' luggage.
I bet she was preparing the cabin. Yeah.
So the flight crew then ran through their pre-flight checklist while the passengers boarded. The engines were geared up one at a time, and the plane made its way from tarmac to runway. The flight plan called for a cruising altitude of 6,000 feet. Only 6,000 feet. Aware of a storm brewing in the Midwest, Captain Lind requested a cruising altitude of 4,000 feet. He was denied due to other assigned traffic at that level. So by the time Flight 2501 reached Cleveland, Ohio at 10:49 p.m. Eastern Time, Captain Lind's request to drop to 4,000 feet was approved by Air Route Traffic Control. 40 minutes later, the pilot was instructed to drop to 3,500 feet to avoid an eastbound flight at 5,000 feet, which was experiencing severe turbulence over the lake. They were expected to pass each other near Battle Creek, Michigan, and the standard separation of 1,000 feet would not be sufficient due to the turbulence. So by 11:51 p.m. Eastern Time, Flight 2501 had entered the vicinity of the growing storm. Captain Lind reported that he was over Battle Creek at 3,500 feet and would reach Milwaukee by 11:37 Central Time. As he neared the lakeshore, he made his last transmission, requesting a further drop in altitude to 2,500 feet. He never stated a specific reason. The request was denied. On the other side of the lake, just before midnight Central Time, Northwest Radio at Milwaukee advised New York, Minneapolis, and Chicago that Flight 2501 was overdue, reporting in at Milwaukee. At that point, all Civil Aeronautics Administration radio stations attempted to contact the overdue flight on all frequencies, but to no avail. Northwest Air Traffic Control alerted air sea rescue facilities to stand by for flight 2501 was missing. By dawn's light, it became clear that the DC-4 had crashed at 5:30 a.m. Saturday, June 24th. The plane officially was presumed lost, as the fuel supply would have been exhausted by that time. At daybreak, the search and rescue teams began an intense search on the fog-covered lake. The U.S. Navy, U.S. Coast Guard, and state police from Illinois, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Indiana were all involved in the search. 13 hours later, at 6:30 Saturday evening, the U.S. Coast Guard cutter Woodbine found an oil slick, aircraft debris, and an airline logbook floating in Lake Michigan, many miles from the shore. At 5:30 a.m. on Sunday, June 25th, sonar work by the U.S. Naval vessel Daniel Joy near the oil slick revealed several strong sonar targets. The Coast Guard vessel Woodbine, Mackinac, Hollyhock, and Frederick Lee focused on the recovery of floating debris, which included a fuel tank float, seat cushions, clothing, blankets, luggage, cabin lining, and tragically, body parts. At the time, authorities wanted to determine whether the plane suffered a midair explosion or whether it struck the water intact. These small pieces would be the only clues they had. Small bits of debris floated endlessly over the surface of the fog-bound lake. The airplane, along with 58 men, women, and children, had disappeared, leaving few clues as to what had occurred 3,500 feet in the air. The loss of Northwest Airlines Flight 2501 represented the worst commercial aviation disaster to that time.
Interesting.
Yeah. It would be less interesting if this was the only one. There's literally hundreds of flights that have disappeared in the same area.
Yep. I believe it.
Similar
Same thing
photos,
over the
too.
Bermuda Triangle.
Oh, yeah?
The thing is with the Bermuda Triangle is they rarely ever find any wreckage. The stuff just vanishes. So
That is true. Kind of interesting how it could just vanish. What the hell? Yeah. Funny how as soon as I close the chat app, he texts me back. So, anyway,
who texted you?
Chris.
Is he not going to join us?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe.
Underwater Stonehenge.
Yeah. Mystery triangle raise more questions than answers.
What do you think?
Oh, you want to get into the Stonehenge?
Maybe.
Stonehenge-like structure found under Lake Michigan. While scanning underneath the waters of Lake Michigan for shipwrecks, archaeologists found something a lot more interesting. It does look interesting, doesn't it?
A little bit. Just a little bit interesting.
Oh yeah, it is. What is this though? Is this like a sonar reading from above, like shooting straight down? Oh, I know.
Apparently.
I don't even know how to look at this. Doesn't look like Stonehenge because doesn't Stonehenge in a circle? This looks like the formations are in a straight line. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I don't know. So, while scanning underneath the waters of Lake Michigan for shipwrecks, archaeologists found something a lot more interesting than they bargained for. They discovered a boulder with a prehistoric carving of a mastodon, as well as a series of stones arranged in a Stonehenge-like manner. Gazing into the water using remote sensing techniques is common in modern archaeology. Scientists routinely survey lakes and ground for hidden structures at a depth of about 40 feet into Lake Michigan's Grand Traverse Bay. Using sonar techniques to look for shipwrecks, archaeologists discovered sunken boats and cars and even a Civil War era pier. But among all these, they found this prehistoric surprise, which a trained eye can guess by looking at the sonar scan photos in this article. You know what? To my untrained eye, this doesn't look that spectacular.
Yeah. No, it just looks like some scattered rocks.
Yeah. So, so to show you what you are supposed to see, they draw red lines in the shape of a fucking something here.
Well, you can kind of see the undrawn one all the way on the left, which you can kind of see it, but
I see a rock, and actually from this angle, it looks like an old man frowning. See, like there's his frown, there's
yeah, a
his
little bit.
nose, there's his eyes, there's his long ass hair right here. Yeah, as someone who's not happy, that's what it looked like to me.
It's the all-seeing eye, Andy. It's the Illuminati on the
See, like a
bottom of
little
Lake
triangle right
Michigan.
here. Yeah, a little
Yeah.
triangle.
It's the pyramid with the eye in the middle. It's the Illuminati's on the bottom of Lake Michigan.
Oh yeah,
They have a secret base there.
you stove it all to hell.
No, 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 no.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking when I saw this right here. Yeah. So when you see it in the water, you're tempted to say, "This is absolutely real," said Mark Hawley, a professor of underwater archaeology at Northwestern Michigan University College, who made the discovery during a news conference with photos of the boulder on display in 2007. But that's what we need the experts to come in and verify. The boulder with the markings is 3.5 to 4 feet high and about 5 feet long. Photos show a surface with numerous fissures. Some may be natural, while others appear of human origin. But those forming what could be the petroglyph stood out. Holly said. I don't fucking see anything here. Honestly, I don't see this. I don't fucking know.
Yeah, if it wasn't drawn out and outlined, I don't really see it too well.
This could be a case of, what do they call that when your brain tries to see patterns and random.
I know what you're talking about, but I can't think of the technical name for it. I have no
Prima
idea.
facie or something like that.
Yeah, when you see a Bigfoot in the trees and it's nothing
Yeah.
really, but you just saw it because your mind told you it was there and it wasn't.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
And
The
we're gonna
damn Sasquatch.
be dead.
He's
We're gonna
everywhere.
be fucking done before Ben comes back.
Oh, we're gonna have to do a little bullshit session after.
Yeah. So, deadly mystery of Lake Michigan Triangle raises more questions than answers. August 14th, 2018, by Josh. When you think of Lake Michigan, what comes to mind? Possibly a clear blue mass with picturesque sailboats, or shimmering skyscrapers reflected in the mysterious blue waters. One thing most people probably do not think of is the expanse of deadly waters hidden within, responsible for numerous disappearances. The mystery of the Lake Michigan Triangle has baffled researchers for decades. Yeah, what researchers are those?
The old Edmund Fitzgerald. What we're gonna be talking about here shortly.
And that's the next one.
Most famous one.
History of vessels on the Great Lakes. Since the Great Lakes discovery, they have served as a means of connecting the middle of the North American continent to the Atlantic Ocean, opening up an important trade opportunity to use as a major water transport corridor for centuries. The first ship recorded to have traveled the upper Great Lakes is the 17th century brigantine. You brigand. You'll rule the daily doubles, you brigand.
You'll
Damn.
rule the day you cross me,
Oh, yeah.
Trebek.
He's like, damn you and your daily doubles, you brigand. So, however, the maiden voyage did not end well. The ship wrecked when it encountered a violent storm while sailing on Lake Michigan. Over the next few centuries, an estimated 6,000 to 8,000 ships sank to the bottom of the Great Lakes, with around 30,000 lives lost. Some of these ships mysteriously disappeared without a trace, one of them being the Thomas Hume. So the first occurrence in the Lake Michigan Triangle was recorded in 1891. The Thomas Hume was a schooner that was built in Manitowoc, Wisconsin in 1870. The ship was christened as H.C. Albright in honor of its first owner, Captain Harry Albright. In 1876, the ship was sold to Captain Welch from Chicago. In the following year, the ship was bought by Charles Hackley, a lumber baron who owned the Hackley Hume lumber mill on Muskegon Lake. The ship was then renamed as the Thomas Hume in 1883 after Hackley's business partner. So Hume would make many successful trips across Lake Michigan until May 21st, 1891, when it disappeared, along with its crew of 7 sailors. Not even a trace of the boat was ever found. The Hume was on a return trip from Chicago to Muskegon, having just dropped off a load of lumber. The Hume would never be seen again until 115 years later, in 2006, when the A&T recovery diving team found it in the southern part of the lake in remarkably good condition. Wow. Took them 115 years to find that boat.
Yeah. Kind of sounds about how long it takes you to find your dick every morning when you have to take a piss.
Yeah. That's me trying to find my dick, and I'm all, fuck, I gotta piss. Then I finally find it, and I'm like,
you're hairy like animal.
That damn Sasquatch.
You're hairy.
So other notable shipwrecks, including the SS Rouse Simmons, a ship built in 1868 that was primarily used to haul lumber across Lake Michigan. It would sink on November 22nd, 1912, carrying a load of Christmas trees from Michigan to Chicago. The SS Appomattox, one of the largest ships to sail Lake Michigan at 319 feet long, was used to haul iron ore and coal all over the Midwest. It would fall into some bad luck on November 2nd, 1905, however, as it would run aground near Milwaukee due to smog from steam smoke produced by ships at bay. Between 1927 and 49, the SS Carl D. Bradley was the largest ship on Lake Michigan at 639 feet, dubbed Queen of the Lakes. That's a big ship,
Yep. It's a pretty good sized ship.
especially for a lake. A
Yeah.
term coined for the largest ship on the lakes. The ship was used as an icebreaker and a freighter to haul limestone from Lake Superior and Lake Huron to Lake Michigan's deep water ports. On November 18, 1958, Carl D. Bradley was returning from Gary, Indiana, heading north in upper Lake Michigan when a massive gale storm hit. The storm battered the massive freighter until the hull began to crack in two. It would sink Titanic style into Lake Michigan, landing in two pieces that would jut upward from the bottom of Lake Michigan. Perhaps the most tragic, however, is the story of the Lady Elgin. The Lady
Yep.
Elgin was a 252-foot wood hull steamship. Mostly a passenger ship, the ship would also haul domestic cargo as well from time to time. The ship would soon become famous as on September 8th, 1860, the ship would collide with the much smaller 129-foot schooner named Augusta. The Augusta would sail back to harbor relatively unscathed, but the Lady Elgin would eventually and continue to take on water until she finally could not bear any more weight and would sink. This would result in the most open water deaths on Great Lakes, around 300 people. So 300 people on that ship.
Damn, son.
They fucking all drowned. Or froze and then drowned.
Sounds pretty gay. Okay.
Oh yeah? I ain't shitting ya. Alright, we already read about the underwater Stonehenge. The Lake Michigan from a distance seems to be a tranquil body of water that is more like a sea than a lake. Lake Michigan is a part of the massive North American chain of Great Lakes. They include Lake Superior, Michigan, Huron, Erie, and Ontario. At 307 miles long and 118 miles wide, Lake Michigan is the second largest of these lakes by volume, the third largest by surface area. It is the only Great Lake completely within the U.S. borders, averaging 279 feet deep and at its deepest 923 feet. It boasts 1,640 miles of shoreline on which 12 million people call home. But there is one statistic of this lake that many people do not know. Stretching westward from Manitowoc, Wisconsin, east toward Ludington, Michigan, harbor lies the Lake Michigan Triangle. Yeah, we already went over this right in the beginning. One such example in particular, the mysterious Captain Donner, went over that as well. Trace of the records have ever been found. Wait. Mystery. All right, yeah, 2501. So I guess people after that, the plane, flight 2501, when it disappeared, people were claiming they saw red lights in the sky. UFOs.
So, think the aliens tried to get on board and peg people, and the plane went down.
I think they wouldn't need to. I think the alien ship would just open a portal right in front of the plane, and the plane wouldn't be able to avoid it and just fly right into it.
Oh, so the plane would peg the portal.
Yep. Just fucking ram it home.
Don't be a gentleman. Just ram it home.
Yeah. Yeah. You can't just ease it in there inch by inch like a gentleman. You just gotta ram it in.
Yep.
Yeah, and you gotta make that noise too when you do. You go.
Or the Sasquatch noise. One or the other.
Yeah, you're like.
Saracana.
Yep. Pretty much.
Oh shit. Fuck, man, we're running out of shit. We're on the Edmund Fitzgerald, and that was Ben's idea, and he's not even on here. Fucker.
This is the only wreck I really knew anything about that I'd ever heard of. So
See, this is on Lake Superior, though. This is outside of the Lake Michigan Triangle.
yeah, who cares?
So Lake Superior, 46 years ago today. So this was as of November 10th, 2021. So, all right, 46 years ago today, the Edmund Fitzgerald was caught in the grip of a deadly storm on Lake Superior. Investigators would later say the mighty Fitz course had put her in the worst possible place amid the monstrous waves of that November gale. When she sank with all 29 souls aboard on November 10th, 1975, the big freighter's story quickly became the Great Lakes' most well-known shipwreck. So her demise was shared around the world in Gordon Lightfoot's song "The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald." While the harrowing details of the ore carrier's last journey became part of mariner lore, today we remember the lives lost, and we honor the amazing bravery of those who risked their own lives to search for a crew who would never be rescued. We're highlighting a collection of photos that have been shared by our friends at the Great Lakes Shipwreck Museum, the Associated Press, the U.S. Coast Guard, and other ship enthusiasts. We've included some interesting facts about the Fitzgerald's work history as a stellar cargo hauler and some of the heartbreaking conversations that marked her final hours. So actually what this whole thing is shaping up to look like to me is this is an area of basically unpredictable and violent extremes of weather that can come out of nowhere unexpectedly
Yep.
and just fuck you up.
That's what it sounds like to me. I'm not sure there's anything really, I'm not convinced there's anything supernatural going on here at all. The Great Lakes are known for just sudden wild storms.
I wonder if the Titanic would have sunk on Lake Michigan.
Probably the Titanic would have sunk anywhere. The unsinkable ship sank rather easily.
Yeah. So interesting. What the fuck's going on here? So 2021 Edmund Fitzgerald Memorial Event. The Great Lakes Shipwreck Museum at Whitefish Point in the Upper Peninsula will be offering a live stream memorial service.
Pick up, you bastards.
Part 1, the early days. So this one. Edmund Fitzgerald launch at Great Lakes Engineering Works on June 7th, 1958. This is a big ass boat, dude.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's your standard cargo ship.
Yep.
Edmund Fitzgerald seen from Ambassador Bridge. You know what? This ship probably is close to the size, if not bigger than the Titanic was.
Yeah. It's probably not too far off.
Yeah.
As far as length goes, anyway.
Yeah. I mean, obviously the Titanic was taller. Probably had more decks. But Yeah, I think it's probably bigger.
See what else going on here.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
look,
yeah.
they're just on a small part of the ship, and look at how small these people look compared to the boat.
Good deep hole.
Yeah, that's a cargo hold.
Big deep hole.
You know what pegging it, Ronnie? I don't know. I don't know what you're getting at.
I don't
You're
know.
hired.
The sea is foamy. You wandered way off course.
The sea is foamy. You have wandered way off course.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man.
So the Edmund Fitzgerald was built at Great Lakes Engineering Works in River Ridge and launched in 1958.
Oh boy.
November 10th, 1975. So the day of the storm, the conversation at 3:30 p.m. on November 10th, 1975, 3:30 p.m. The Fitzgerald's captain, Ernest McSorley, calls the nearby freighter Arthur M. Anderson's captain, Jesse Cooper, to report damage and say his ship would slow to let Anderson catch up. Minutes later, the Coast Guard issues directions for all ships to find safe anchorage because the SO locks have been closed. McSorley, Anderson. This is the Fitzgerald. I have sustained some topside damage. I have a fence rail laid down, 2 vents lost or damaged, and a list. So a list means the ship is starting to tip to one side. So I'm checking down. Will you stay by me until I get to Whitefish? Cooper. Charlie on that Fitzgerald. Do you have your pumps going? Yeah, both of them. So I'm assuming Charlie means something similar to us, like saying Roger that, you know?
What pumps did he have going? His
Said
penis
get
pump?
pumps going. No, pump the water out, Ronnie. What good's a penis pump when you're trying to keep the boat floating?
He's trying to pump something out. It's probably ropes.
One ugly motherfucker.
pumping ropes out.
Arthur
Look,
and
see, he's making whitefish. Ropes. Oh god.
damn. So, yeah, the boat eventually sank. Anderson was called upon to help search for the ill-fated Edmund Fitzgerald in rough Lake Superior waters in 1975. The Fitzgerald ore carrier sank November 10th, 1975. So this is a picture of the Fitzgerald underwater. This underwater photo of the sunken SS Edmund Fitzgerald was taken by an unmanned submersible robot as a research team investigated the wreck site 17 miles northwest of Whitefish Point, Michigan. On August 24, 1989, the 729-foot ore freighter sunk on November 23, 1975 during a severe storm, taking its load of iron and the crew of 29 men to the bottom of the Lake Superior. What are you laughing at?
I bet it took its load to the bottom.
The Lord tells me he can get me out of this mess, but he's pretty sure you're fucked.
It took a big load to the bottom. Holy crap.
I bet he took a big load to the bottom. Yeah. So, yeah. Pictures of the boat underwater. So they found it. Conversation at 5:30 p.m., November 10th, 1975. Fitzgerald is advised by Swedish ship Avafors The Whitefish Point beacon and light are disabled by power failure. Ava Force. Fitzgerald, this is Ava Force. I have the Whitefish light now, but still am receiving no beacon. Over. Fitzgerald, I'm very glad to hear it. Ava Force. The wind is really howling down here. What are the conditions where you are? Fitzgerald. Undiscernible shouts overheard. Don't let nobody on deck. Ava Force. What's that, Fitzgerald? Unclear. Over. Fitzgerald. I have a bad list. Lost both radars and am taking heavy seas over the deck. One of the worst seas I've ever been in. Ava Force. If I'm correct, you have 2 radars. Fitzgerald. They're both gone.
Oh, you're fucked.
Yeah. Yep. That was
The
that.
Lord tells me he can get me out of this mess, but he's pretty sure you're fucked.
Oh, it looks to me by this picture, the Fitzgerald actually turned upside down on its way to the bottom.
Yeah, at least that half of it.
No.
Oh, for sure.
No, yeah. The final conversation on November 10th, 1975, 7:10 p.m. Anderson calls Fitzgerald with navigation instructions. The ship is about 10 miles behind the doomed freighter. Anderson. Fitzgerald, this is Anderson. Have you checked down? Fitzgerald, yes, we have. Anderson. Fitzgerald, we are about 10 miles behind you and gaining about 1.5 miles per hour. Fitzgerald, there is a target 19 miles ahead of us. So the target would be 9 miles on ahead of you. Fitzgerald, well, am I going to clear? Anderson, yes, he is going to pass to the west of you. Fitzgerald, well, fine. Anderson, by the way, Fitzgerald, how are you making out with your problem? Fitzgerald says, we're holding our own. Anderson says, okay, fine. I'll be talking to you later. 7:15 p.m. Fitzgerald disappears from Anderson's radar. More than an hour later, the Coast Guard begins an active search. The 29 crew members aboard all perished.
So hold on. What time was the start of that conversation at the top? 7:10. So within 5 minutes, they're having this conversation, and right after they end the conversation, 5 minutes after they started it, the Fitzgerald disappeared. Just vanished.
Yep. That's what it says.
Damn.
All of this was pulled, I'm assuming, off of the Anderson ship log. So.
Mm-hmm.
See, back then they didn't have, well, I don't know. Maybe they did have recording devices in the, kind of like the black box on an airplane.
Yeah, maybe.
But I'm assuming all of this was recorded somehow on the bridge of the Anderson.
Oh, I'm sure.
This. Yeah, so it did break into 2 pieces, like the Titanic.
Yep.
530 feet down. These sketches are from the U.S. Coast Guard Marine Casualty Report issued in April 1977 following a disaster investigation. The sketches were made from dive video showing 2 halves of the wreck covered in lake bottom mud.
Outstanding.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, they're covered in bottom mud, like bud mud.
Butt mud?
Bud mud.
I thought you said butt mud.
Covering that nabs.
Nasty ass beer shits.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Hey, they found a fucking lifeboat? A life raft?
Oh, yeah.
A life raft from the Edmund Fitzgerald is examined by U.S. Coast Guard on the dock. That means somebody got out and inflated that thing. The raft was brought ashore from the steamer Like the raft at Whitefish Bay. So where's the people that were in the raft?
I don't know.
Somebody inflated that raft. They don't just inflate on their own.
It's a mystery, isn't it?
It's kind of like pulling the ripcord on a parachute. Like they do inflate on their own, but you got to physically pull the fucking cord. Oh, I don't know. That's pretty much all I got, man.
What if they all went down pulling on something, not just a cord?
Like the guy in Pompeii. He's like, he sees this whole
Yeah.
world burning down around him, and he decides to crank one out before he reaches.
Yeah. Frozen in time for 2,000 years with his dick in his hand.
Fuck it. Wouldn't mind being remembered that way.
Fucking legend.
Sees this huge fucking ash cloud just bellowing towards him, and he lays down and tries to crank one out before he fucking dies.
He died the way he lived.
just cranking and fapping.
Furiously masturbating.
He's laying there watching that fucking cloud come into him, and he's all.
Hairy like animals.
Wow. My
Shit.
God.
Hang on.
Release the.
Release the Kraken.
Kraken.
Oh man. You know what? I think we've beat this one good enough, dude. I think
Yeah.
the Great Lakes Triangle, I mean, it's definitely, I wouldn't say it's really a mystery. It's definitely interesting, and there's a lot of history there. And I'd like to actually get into
Yeah.
it a little deeper. But
Yeah, I say, there's definitely really bad weather that can come out of nowhere there, and bad
frequent,
enough to sink major ships.
especially in the
but-
wintertime.
On the fat scale, as far as this being a paranormal phenomenon, I say it's anorexic.
Yeah, this thing is
But-
this thing literally it hasn't had its stomach like downsized. This thing has had its stomach completely removed, and all there is esophagus straight to intestines.
Anything they eat just shoots right through it.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. This is
Comes out the other end, not even digested, just went
exactly
right through.
like you just ate like 4 chunks of steak, and 4 chunks of steak came out your ass. So
Yep.
yeah, that's how thin this is.
Pretty much.
This I think, in my opinion, I could be wrong, but in my opinion, this is just a case of a bunch of really bad weather events in a specific geological area or geographic area, and just people got caught in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yep,
Happens every day.
absolutely.
Yep. But you know what is
I concur.
paranormal, which we might do next week. Maybe we'll just do a whole triangle series, and we'll just do like all the triangles around the world. So next week, I'm thinking maybe we'll do the Bridgewater Triangle, because
Yeah.
the Bridgewater Triangle is paranormal.
Yeah, we could do the Bridgewater Triangle and maybe do a little Bermuda Triangle and love triangles.
Yeah, but it's unrelated though. The Bridgewater Triangle is more of a triangle of paranormal happenings, UFOs, fucking skinwalkers, ghosts. Like,
Right.
it's an extremely
if you-
haunted area. It's not an area where fucking ships and planes go missing all the time.
Well, it's the same thing with the Alaska Triangle. I mean, shit goes missing there, planes and shit all the time, but it's also a huge paranormal site as well for weird shit going on.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I think that's just about it, buddy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, if you want to comment, like, share, or whatever, that'd be great. Subscribe if you can, whatever platform you listen to us on. And our email is supernaturalbeerbros@gmail.com. Our Instagram is sbbpod. You can contact us on either one of those, whether it's DMs or emails. And that's it.
Yes, Bob.
No, yeah.
Ain't shitting ya.
Oh, yeah. So,
The Lord tells me he can get me out of this mess, but he's pretty sure you're fucked.
so
Yeah, he's pretty sure you're fucked, all right.
yeah, with that being said, this has been the Supernatural Beer Bros podcast, and me and Ronnie are signing out.